Hello and welcome back to the Hawks Nest live stream show. BNB show is what it is actually here. Brendon Nelson is in the house. How you doing, Brendon? It's good to see you.
I'm doing good today, man. Thank you for having me on. Hope you're doing well.
I am doing well. It seems like you finally got over that hump of the flu and the cold and whatnot.
Whatever it was, I don't know what it was, but yeah, I'd still put myself on the injury report if there was one, but it would definitely be with the probable designation. So pretty good.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, it's good to see you back up on your feet. We are obviously, Brendon, we are in, the doldrums of the off season here. We're deep within it. And so that leads us to the spot where we either start putting lists together of the greatest all time Seahawks or try to dive into some other alternative areas of discussion. And I think that the place we want to kind of concentrate on today, I want to look at and talk to you with you about is looking into this next year. There's a real consensus, and I'm actually got to give my people credit. I don't know about your feeling from your chat of level-minded folks that are being very patient with this upcoming season and their way they're viewing it and their expectation level of what they're expecting to see. Are you kind of getting that feeling on your end?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the thing is, we were bad last year, but so it's not like we've never been bad before, and these people don't know what it's like to have a bad season. So yeah.
Yeah, no one's freaking out. And I think with that, though, there's also a little bit of, okay, we kind of know what this team probably will be. It may surprise us on one end or another on the other scale of things, but this lets us maybe project out a little bit easier in what moves might be needed to be made if this happens. So if you come off of this season in a mediocre state, as far as the team, somewhere between 5 and 7 wins, 8 wins, somewhere in there is probably realistic, maybe a little lower, maybe a little higher. Then we kind of know where we're going to be at from a draft standpoint. We know how much money we're going to basically have to spend. And I don't want to go into necessarily detail with you, Brendon, where we actually dive into exact players, but more into what is the model you're seeing and what this team is showing you with sort of their, everybody shows their hand in the direction they're going. We know now they're kind of fitting to more of the 2012 blueprint, but I want to go with you on what you see them taking as kind of this tactical approach on now building this team back to hopefully becoming elite once again. And at the front of this, we talked a week ago about this. You had kind of the idea of maybe rather this next off season, there's a view of this towards 2024. And if you could you kind of elaborate a little bit on your mindset and where you're coming from with that thought process?
Well, I think at the core of it is this issue that right now we probably don't have the next great quarterback. Drew Lock, he's got a chance. I'll give him a chance. I'm interested to see what he can do, but I can say that and also say at the same time it's not very likely that he becomes this great quarterback, right? I think that's fair.
Fair. Totally fair.
So you are very likely, I'd say about an 80% chance looking at drafting somebody in next year's draft. But you're not going to know if the guy you drafted is good for some time. In the modern NFL, it probably only takes like a year, and then you can get a pretty good idea of it. We see quarterbacks get tossed aside after a year fairly frequently these days. So you only need the year. But my concern is, do you want to build the super team before you're sure you have a quarterback who can take advantage of it? So if you go all in 2023 around an unknown rookie quarterback, that could be a problem. So that is kind of where I'm looking at this.
So more of and taking a little bit then the conservative approach from your view of as you would attack this upcoming off seasons once we get through this year. And it is in that sort of fit to form season I just talked about for that reason. Not to mention, I mean, do we have, Brendon, a baseline of a rookie quarterback, even on the most stacked of teams, taking any team to a Super Bowl, much less winning one in recent memory? I can't think of one. And I think that's probably also telling within this.
I don't think a rookie quarterback has ever taken a team to the Super Bowl. Ben Roethlisberger took his team to the AFC title game. I think Dan Marino might have.
There you go. Sure. Yeah. I think it was Marino in his first year because he never got back there. That was that whole thing with him. But still, it's not a thing you would count on happening, and you probably would structure your your general approach around understanding that that's the reality of it.
Yeah.
So with that kind of understood a little bit, Brendon, let's look at a couple of particulars that we can kind of look at here. And And it first begins with, let's look at the salary cap, because this is where people are going to look at the money situation. And this is where a lot of talk comes from right now, I know, in consternation in regards to us not having a lot of money to spend. We're sitting at $51 million. Both you and I expect still that a DK Metcalf deal is going to be done. Yeah. You still
Yeah. It's too late for anything else, I think.
I agree. So you got the first year hit this year of cap. It'll be about 14 for him. I think by next year that moves up to 20. That's the offseason we're talking about here. So you remove that down, that takes us down to $31 million of workable cap space at this point on a team that both you and I are basically looking at being around anywhere from a 4 to an 8-win football team, middle of the road, slightly below it. So you don't have it's not a lot of money to spend there, Brendon. $31 million at that point, considering, that's almost half as much money as you had this offseason to spend walking into it on a team that, while you said you're not looking to necessarily go forward, you're needing to add some pieces here, aren't you?
Yeah, definitely, which is why I don't think next year should be the year you really take the plunge. I think next year should be the year you continue to let this thing kind of slowly bake. I think there is a great opportunity for something like that too. I think this team has set itself up very well to be able to do that. Mm-hmm. But I just don't think 2023 is the year you go for it. I would continue to use 2023 as like your proof of concept here, where you make sure this thing can fly before you chuck it into outer space. And I'm actually really excited about the opportunities that kind of a window could afford you. So I don't dread it at all, but it is going to take some patience on the part of the team and the fan base. But I think it could be rewarded with something really special when you come out of it.
Well, I'll tell you this too. I was looking it up when I looked at the 2024 cap situation. It gets you very excited, not only because you're already obviously top 5 in the most amount of cap space as it stands right now, but when you look at every deal that remains there on the list that is quote unquote of the big deals we have right now, Adams, Lockett, etc., you can get out from under all those deals at a very reasonable rate at that point. And actually only have to take a very marginal amount of dead money hit on both of those 2 contracts by that point if you decide to do that, just giving you all that much more flexibility for that upcoming season. So again, just a sign that kind of points in the direction of what you're speaking about as to why you maybe wait that extra year and have that little bit more of patience, as opposed to us feeling like we got to put the pedal to the floor next year.
And I'm not saying that you can't go to the Super Bowl or win the Super Bowl with a rookie quarterback. I don't think that's true. I will say it's less likely, but my main concern is what if you build this great team and then you draft the wrong guy? Mm-hmm. Like that would just be such a disaster to have this amazing car and then you've got nobody to drive it. Yeah. That's what I want to make sure you have the driver before you build the car. So that's how I would put it.
Agreed there. Would you say then that if you're in that state of mind, then would it be pretty logical then to then say that with that 31 million that you have, rather than looking to go and dip your toes in the free agent waters, you would in actuality look to maybe re-sign some of your own guys who are deserving of contracts potentially that are free agents?
Some of them maybe, but honestly, looking at our free agents next year, I don't see a whole lot that I feel super attached to. Especially if they have good years and are going to cost a lot of money. I would maybe shy away from that a little bit. I've looked at the list of guys who are going to be up. I don't know. I'm not sure that there's anything there that I'm really feeling like, oh, we got to keep that.
Well, and to your point, I pulled out the best names I could find on here, Brendon. Poona Ford, probably not going to be a fit in the 3-4 defense. Rashad Penny, I don't think the team's interested in paying a running back money. Sidney Jones is the interesting one. If he balls out, he could be the one, even though you've already kind of built up some Trey Brown and obviously that could obviously, he could ball out and you still go, yeah, we're good. Because we've stacked up such good corner depth at that point. But then Geno Smith, Kobe, that was who I was trying to think of. I was trying to think of Drew Lock, Austin Blythe, Marquise Blair. And Blythe would be maybe, but even Blythe, what's he going to cost you if he has a good year? Marginal deal at 31 years old. Don't think he'd cost a lot. So I think to your point on that, there's something to be said for you probably just let your own free agents walk, especially if, I guess what I'm thinking within this, Brendon, is that we don't have as much money to spend. So what we do instead here is we let the free agents walk, right, to play the compensatory game at that point. You
There
got what
you
I'm
go.
saying? Yeah. So they walk that way. And it's actually really 3 guys I'm targeting in on who aren't, let's say, per se free agents, but who you could consider putting some of that money towards, if not via, let's say, a trade, which doesn't affect, of course, the compensatory system. And so let's give on these 3 guys, give me your thoughts. Jordan Brooks. Okay. The auspice here, Brendon, these guys ball out. What's ball out for Brooks? Pro Bowl year, gets maybe a little bit better in coverage. His natural fit at middle linebacker shows through, yada, yada. He balls out. You've got to make the decision on giving him a Fred Warner contract after this year.
Well, I don't know about that one because you've got the 5th-year option you can use on him too. So it's not just one cheap year of his rookie deal you're giving up. It's the one cheap year of the rookie deal plus his 5th-year option, which is going to be more. I don't know exactly what it's going to be, but it's going to be probably less than the 20 million average annual value that a Fred Warner type deal would give you. So I don't know. Maybe if you have to do that, maybe if he decides to be a Kyler Murray about it.
That's what I'm anticipating.
Really? You think so? As a
Well,
linebacker?
Think what he gets to say. I just led the league and I know you and I don't think this necessarily way we can, but this is what he'll say. I just led the league in tackles this year, right? And then now you finally slid me back to middle linebacker, which is my natural middle position. And I became a Pro Bowler and when you finally put me back, I played me out of position my first 2 years. Now I've been here all the time. I've been out there playing for you wherever you've asked me to play, and I've done well. I mean, he's got a little bit to say for that at that point. I know leading tackles doesn't do for anything. We have an explanation for why, but this doesn't change a player from rooting down the ground and digging in and saying, I earned it,
I don't know if off-ball linebackers have leverage in the modern NFL to actually hold out. I get it with quarterbacks because they're quarterbacks. I get it with pass rushers, maybe left tackles, but off-ball linebacker, I don't know if I see him being good enough to have that kind of leverage.
To your point on this, Fred Warner is a magnificent cover linebacker from the middle linebacker position, and that is not Jordan Brooks.
Yeah. And the odds of Jordan Brooks getting significantly better in coverage are low as far as I'm concerned. He wasn't good at it in college, wasn't good at it in the pros. Like what? It's suddenly just going to click? That's very unlikely. That doesn't happen very often.
No, I still maintain it was my draft day assessment on the night that we drafted Jordan, and I still retain everything's been proven out since I made that night, which is I said, look, he can't cover in zone. That's his biggest hole in his game, and he's going to a defense that plays predominantly zone. You can see some problems coming up from this. And he can do good in man, but he's still undersized, and he can't take the 6'5" gargantuan Jimmy Graham type guys that are going to climb the ladder on him and go over the top because he just doesn't have the length at that point to deal with it, even when he's good in man and he's in the back pocket. So that you might be right on that being the thing that maybe they're able to get to more of a common ground. The thing I do wonder though then too is inflation's a bitch, Brendon, and that thing's going to push that 20 million money of Fred Warner today might not be the same $20 million marker money when the Amazon money kicks in.
Yeah. I as of right now, my position on Jordan Brooks would be let him play out his rookie deal, use the 5th-year option, and if he decides to kick up a fuss because he just had an all-pro year or something, then maybe we revisit, but I think that's unlikely. He hasn't really shown to me yet that he can be a great pass rusher either. I know some people think he'll be good at that, but I haven't seen it yet. So we're talking about a one-dimensional player as of right now, and he's very good at that, but
if he holds you over that barrel, then do you move him?
It's an off-ball linebacker who I think that's a fairly replaceable position. Yeah. I think you might.
When we're talking $20 million, we're talking because he can say 20 million. He can say, well, it's not Fred Warner money because it's Fred Warner money was 20 million. And when the cap was at $182 million, this is 20 million at the cap being at $230 million. And again, I don't agree with him necessarily, but I could see where he feels like he's got a leg to stand on from a leverage standpoint to push it.
Based off what we've seen, I think Jordan Brooks is good, but I don't see anything over the top with him. So if he wants to play it like that, then let him play it like that on another team.
Yeah, I think I would tend to agree with you. I don't want to put that cost down on that at that point. Unless he wants to go that a middle leverage deal, something more like 15-ish. You give me a 15. And then you could sign me up maybe 15 as he's getting, if he comes off a Pro Bowl in a year and he looks more natural at middle, but 20 is
Yeah.
definitely 20 definitely is going to be a bit too expensive. All right, next one. He goes out this year, Brendon, lightning off the edge, fast as hell, bending that corner like he's an inch off the ground. 13 sacks from Darrell Taylor this year, operating out of a 3-4 defense. And he says, I want to get paid. I had a broken leg. I had a rod in there. That could happen to me again at any time. I got off my stuff. I produced for you guys. I got better each year. He's a Pro Bowler again this last year. Year 3's done. Want to be paid. What do you do?
Pretty sure he can't because he didn't play at all in year 1. I think his rookie contract just kind of bumped over a year. I looked into this.
No, I don't think so.
Because on Spotrac, they have a player option year for him after when his rookie contract would have normally ended. So I'm not sure if he even can do it. If he did, let's go ahead and have the discussion real quick. If he did, that's different. I might be amenable to that because he's a pass rusher.
Mm-hmm.
I give an elite pass rusher elite money all day. That's no problem. But I believe because he was never active his rookie year, he can't hold out because the way his contract works has changed. I remember us playing Rashad Penny for like 30 snaps in 2020 ended up coming back to bite us. Mm-hmm. There was a whole article on Field Goals about this, where if we had never activated Rashad Penny in 2020, we would have had him under contract for this year on his rookie deal because he never would have been active that year. But I think because Taylor was never activated, he actually has to wait an extra year. I could be wrong, but I don't think I am.
I'll double check into it myself. I've never heard of it being that way because I always thought you got your service time and you get your year in. And I know there is an option you're involved here where after you cross the 3rd year as a 2nd round pick, you have a 4th year option the club has the control of you on. So you have technically a 4-year deal in place there, but that's not the same thing as what you're talking about necessarily, which would be an extra year to that. That he would still, that there'd be an additional season off of what I'm talking about. Cause he'd be going in my thing, he'd be going to this year, 3rd year, and Seattle could potentially hold him over the barrel for an additional year. You're saying even an additional year beyond that because the 1st year didn't count.
Yeah, I'm looking at Spotrac right now. They have him listed as a restricted free agent in 2024.
Okay. So yeah, so he's so I have him as okay. So yeah, then they're putting him as still under club control. Do they have him so they have him counting on the cap in 2024?
No, they just have him listed as restricted, meaning the team can choose whether or not to keep him. So I think not activating him once in 2020 has actually saved us
that'd be amazing.
Saved us a year. Yeah.
That would be amazing because that 3 years is a hard thing with those rookies. They can't, whether they want to come, if they can't pass that 3rd year of their mark, they can't come back and renegotiate the contracts. So that would be marvelously huge. All right. Well, you said you would be willing to. I probably would be as well. He's probably going to ask a lot like Jordan will for the $20 million marker at that point when he does want to get paid, because that will be the going rate, if not more expensive, because it is pass rusher. But this is if he comes out into the 13 sack season and builds on what he showed in flashes through the first half of the year last year, I don't see any reason why that doesn't make a lot of sense. If that is but getting next year would be great, dude. That'd help us out so much. Yes. All right. The 3rd, I could only find a 3rd guy really on the list with this, unless, I know you're a big Colby Parkinson guy. I kid. But there wasn't really anybody else I saw that jumped out to me that necessarily they go out and have a amazing year and you're going to want to get out ahead of them a little bit. Damien Lewis was the last guy I had as a potential though in this realm. And this is a tough one for me. I'm really torn on this one. Where do you stand on, okay, Damien Lewis goes out. He didn't have the greatest of year left guard last year, but I'm talking about it with all 3 of these guys balling out, Brendon. We're operating. Because if they don't, that's an easier choice, right? Like if Damien Lewis goes out and he looks immobile and an ill fit for left guard, then it's a decision of, are we repaying him to hold him at right guard long-term and cutting off from Gabe? And that's a whole simple, makes that a simple and easy quick there. The harder thing is him remaining at left guard and having to pay him then at left guard. And that happens under my situation here if he does ball out and have a very good year from that left guard or improves on what he did last year, let's say.
I don't want to live in a world where interior offensive linemen start getting all uppity about their about their fourth year of their rookie deal. Like we've gotten it now from quarterbacks. I understand that. You see it from other positions sometimes, but a guard, like come on, guys. I just don't see it. And what would balling out for Damien Lewis really be? Like his rookie year, he was good, but he still wasn't a good pass protector. Last year, he was probably below average, I think. Is that fair?
Yes.
Like, unless he's like Larry Allen 2.0, I don't even want to see him ask for a new contract.
Well, I'm saying, like, what if he got up to like, PFF hit him up at like 72 and he played at a sub Pro Bowl to a Pro Bowl level? That kind of ball out, I guess. So yeah, let me get distinct. But then he's, past the third year, played out, wants a new deal.
I get into a staring contest on that one. 72 PFF grade is not anything that I'm getting too excited about. I will win that staring contest. I will win that staring contest.
I could have given you an 80 and made it nice and easy on you, but I slid it right in there at that like, okay, it's okay. Okay, so well, you've been very conservative here, Brendon. You're not re-signing in your free agents. You're playing the compensatory game. You've not necessarily dipped into anything as far as the guys you have to get out a year ahead in advance, and the guys we're talking about here, outside of Jordan coming down at a lower end deal, which we'll see on that. I think that those guys end up asking for what they're going to ask for, and that may cause Seattle to, hey, we've got the 5th year option kind of situation. So you actually still have now $31 million, but I guess then I would say that from this standpoint, your look would be to say, I'm going to look to make trades here with maybe taking on salary at that point versus looking to go attack free agency with that money. Unless, obviously if there's a beautiful, magnificent free agent that came down the pack that was like, oh, hey, you got this all pro center that, takes over for Austin Blythe. Yeah, we'd all do that. But absent that, what would you do with that money, having not spent it on your own free agents or in the future in advance?
Mostly I would chill out with it. I would play it slow, do some 1-year deals. Maybe if there's 1 or 2 guys that you think are really worth keeping around, like let's say Puna has an amazing year in the 3-4, then maybe you could do that. But I'm looking to roll some money over.
Ooh.
The exception, I think the number one thing I would actually be looking for in free agency in next year, 2023,
right,
if you want to make a big splash, would actually be at left guard.
Yeah.
Because I don't think Damien Lewis is going to work out there. I think that we all know where he should be, but that's a discussion for another time.
Right.
Phil Haynes is nice, but will he stay healthy? And he's also gonna, if he plays well, he's probably gonna want some money too, because I think he's gonna be a free agent next year.
Mm-hmm.
And Gabe Jackson, I don't think there's any way he's on the team next year.
No.
So left guard, you've got 2 big names next year. You've got Quentin Nelson, that would be the Cadillac. And then you've got Elgton Jenkins from, I think he's a Packer right now.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, and sorry about my camera, guys.
You're good.
Okay. I'll try to work on that in the background here. But I would say that left guard would be an area that I look at, because I think we're going to draft a center next year, because there's nobody on this team who can do center stuff past this season, because Blythe is on a 1-year deal. Olivier Lestage is gone. And I don't really think any of our projects are going to be much of anything right now.
No.
So at right guards are easy. Like either you move Damien Lewis back there and keep him there and he's fine, or you get somebody else who's going to be fine. Right guard is, they grow on trees. But if you want to spend big on a left guard to really solidify that offensive line, you've got Quentin Nelson, you've got Elgton Jenkins. I'm probably mispronouncing that name. That name makes me feel like I have dyslexia. Elgton Jenkins.
Elgerton.
Something like that.
Elgerton.
Yeah.
I can't do it either, so I'm gonna let you keep pronouncing it. I'll just keep calling him Jenkins.
And also, actually, there are a couple other guys who are much less notable, but are still probably pretty good. Justin Pugh, Roger Saffold, Isaac Suamalo. I think I got that one right. And Wes Schneitzer from Washington. All those guys are pretty good. Some of them are a little older, but there are
Yeah.
some nice left guards who may hit the market next year. And we always talk about how left guard is that's the hard one to nail down.
Well, I'd say it's not just speaking to the offensive line. I think left guard has become quietly one of those positions that's one of the hardest to find a good one. You can find one, but having to get a good one, like in this last draft, we had one left guard taken in the first round, two maybe I think with Kenyon Green. And there's just not a lot, and it's not because there isn't teams needing left guards. It's just because there wasn't a lot coming out the track that come out of the draft that fit to be that difference maker quotient at the position. I like your Quentin Jefferson idea. And look, being that you've saved your $31 million here, Brendon, and you've been very frugal with your money here in our approach, would we not maybe be in favor of, even with the guy with Nelson, maybe starting, he's going to be getting closer to 30 at this point? Because the other guys you mentioned, Staffel, they're getting really old. Staffel's way up there. He's got to be like 33, 34 years old, but
35.
35.
Will be 35.
Wow. My God. That guy's been playing forever. He was playing on the Rams when they were in St. Louis. But I would throw the wallet at Nelson. I if I've saved that much money on the front end of this, and knowing the way I can stack the rest of that lineup around him and move Damien Lewis back, so it's a 2-for-1. And then just knowing what Nelson brings to the table in both components of his game, I might be willing to make a record-breaking contract with the left guard position for Nelson next year, if that's what it took. Where would you stand on that?
I initially wrote in 5 years, $85 million, but the cap is going to go way up. That may be more, but that's what I put as like a baseline: 5 years, $85 million. But the thing to remember is that we are going to be very cheap at tackle for the next few years, because Cross is stuck on that rookie deal for another 3 years, maybe more, maybe as many as 5. Lucas, same thing. He's probably going to be on it for 4 years. If those are your two starters, that is a lot of money that you're saving. So you've also got, in my opinion, we should draft a center in the draft next year. I have my eye on Patterson from Notre Dame. He's my number one guy right now. That also means you're very cheap at center, and you can also choose to be very cheap at right guard, because right guards are everywhere.
I agree.
Not a huge demand.
Yeah.
So if you want to say we're going to blow up our wallet on this one position on the offensive line when we're really cheap everywhere else, you can do that.
Yeah. Have the first 2 years of the deal where a lot of the money's at. By the time Cross and Lucas are coming up to get paid, you're out from under the deal. You're not putting other significant money in there. You're not spending the money on the quarterback. This is the benefit of not having the money invested in all those other positions, is that you have a little bit of free money to put in other places. And then getting a guy like Nelson, who's, not over the hill at that point, still got a couple of good years left to stack in with what you've got. Boy, that'd be if Lucas and Cross can become what we think they can become, that's an offensive line that now starts to push itself up into maybe potentially top 5. If you can just round it out with a couple of even just average parts to what you've put on the front end of it, which I think would help out whatever next quarterback comes into play here as the next guy. But, I just think that's what that would also afford you, Brendon, if you don't re-sign your own free agents and you don't go out there and go a year ahead on these guys and rewarding contracts, is that you have some money there now at that point. And it's not like in a year ahead that you don't have a ton more money left, even if you do sign a guy to a contract either. Still got a little bit of cash to spend.
Yeah.
Sorry,
real quick. Oh yeah, one more thing. The only other thing I would think about spending big on in next offseason would be maybe like a defensive end, especially because I don't think Shelby Harris is going to be here for much longer.
Yeah.
So if you want to say we want to have one stud on that defensive line, there are going to be guys available like Javon Hargrave, Matthew Ioannidis, Onyemata from, I believe, the Saints. Jerry Tillery is probably going to be a free agent at that point, and the Chargers they don't have a lot of money sitting around. Yeah. So there are going to be guys you could get and put on that defense line. But that, other than that, I kind of want to play this slow.
Yeah. I can see the benefit of it. I mean, as you look at it, and the more I looked at it today, as we were kind of prepping up for the show, I could see at first blush, I was like, no, let's just try to just go. But again, you start thinking through all the parts of it, the rookie quarterback, and still, where you sit from a cap standpoint, being you're not walking into next offseason with $89 million to spend. It's sitting at $31 million. Now there is some cut candidates you could have. Owusu, you could clear $3 million, Adams $10 million, Harris $6 million, Gabe Jackson $3.5 million, Disley $1.5 million, and $6 million on Diggs. But I don't know if any of those guys are, really going to be eligible to be cut at the end of the day. I think
Yeah.
everybody ends up.
Maybe Nwosu if Mafe kills it, and
It's
you just
true.
be like, okay, we've got Taylor and Mafe as starters, and we've got guys like Alton Robinson and Tyreek Smith as depth, and maybe we just feel like Nwosu's not that valuable. But I don't think Shelby Harris is going to go anywhere because we already moved the money around. Like if we were if we were thinking there was any consideration that we were going to let him go, I think we would have not done that. So I seriously doubt that.
It's a harder position to find a little bit. Like you said, we already got Mafe just already sitting on the roster behind Owusu. It's been harder recently to find the guy that's more of the 3-tech / gives you some pass rush from a 3-4 defensive end in what Harris can give you on that. It seems like that's another position, like almost like the left guard of the offensive line, in that it's one that you think you'll be able to just go find anywhere, but it actually becomes pretty tough to find the good quality ones. You might find just a whatever one, but to get a quality one's a much tougher task. I like those guys you mentioned though, because none of the guys that are coming up are going to be commanding huge money. You can bring them in then or at a moderate cost. And that makes a lot of sense at that point, going that route too. If you've got to move on a year after from Harris, just looking forward. But no, I think that they do sit on those guys. As we then draw into the draft, you look to roll money over. We're not really, maybe we make a big signing if we can add to the offensive line. I think we're both kind of like mind there. When you then come to how you'd attack the draft, again, let's just say we're fitting to type here. Let's not go grand and wide scope. Let's stick to pretty much type, which is Seahawks have this mediocre year, which puts them in a top 10 pick / maybe even a top 5. And then the Broncos go out and let's say have like a 10-7 season minimum where they're sitting more in the 22-23 range with their first round pick. Let's also say that the prognosticators and analysts that are looking ahead at this next draft and saying that there should be 5 first round picks that are quarterbacks in this upcoming next draft versus this last year's draft where there was only one are right. So we have that knowledge and understanding coming into this, Brendon. What would be a general tactic and how you would see utilizing these 4 picks you then have through the first 2 rounds? And knowing what the quarterback position is going on, knowing how the team is being built up around your tactic to maybe push a year out from now, how does that impact who you does, or maybe it doesn't impact for you? I don't want to put words in your mouth on that. But how would your approach then be in the way you would go at this next draft?
For me, this upcoming draft is, I have a very clear idea of right now what I'm looking at with those first 4 picks. I even did a way too early 2023 mock draft already.
Never too early.
Yeah. We're going to do a 2029 mock draft. We're going to go watch some Pop Warner football this week and try to figure out.
Hey, you just got to get a far look on this, man. You got to start looking now. The more information, the better.
Yeah. The kid who was in the Play 60 commercial with Cam Newton.
That's right. He's back in a big way.
He's probably pretty, he'll probably be up in like the 2028 NFL draft. Number 1 pick.
He called it. He called his shot years ago, Brendon. So he told Cam was up. You saw the fear in Cam's eyes in that commercial.
Yeah.
You saw it.
But I would definitely use one of those 4 picks on a quarterback. This upcoming college year is going to go a long way in determining which one. We already did a show talking about our favorites. Some guys we're concerned about, some guys we're interested in. Yeah. There are a lot of guys. This is a great draft for quarterbacks. You're definitely going to find at least one guy you're really into if you actually look into this.
Yeah.
I found 17 guys who are intriguing, and there are going to be others. Now, some of those guys are going to fall apart, but still.
Many of them could rise to the top too within it. I mean, it's the old, just that maybe the better the competition pushes everybody a little bit harder ahead. You never know. And hey, if we even come out of this with 5 first round quarterbacks, Brendon, that provides us flexibility and versatility in that first round. We're now not having to stack a whole bunch of picks for the magical guy who will be the end all be all messiah of the team going forward. We can maybe we go for the 4th quarterback in this draft, or the 3rd, or, the 5th, even if we really feel like he's a guy that can just handle this offense. Maybe he's a Van, I know you don't like the Van Dyke guy, but a guy that can just, basically run a structured offense and do it well and do it almost right from the jump when you have him walk in the door. They may look at it in that direction of things. Do you look at it in that path of, let me find the quarterback that fits just into the scheme itself, or get me the talent with that first round pick versus finding that difference maker who might be, I know everyone loves to say the Will Anderson type, but something more along, let's say, in the lines of this past draft, a Thibodeau, Hutchinson, Sauce Gardner, kind of talent, be it for maybe the defensive side of the ball at that point. Which would you lean more towards on get the quarterback first and foremost and then make hay with the other picks around there, or just let the draft kind of fall to you as it kind of comes?
I think you probably let it fall to you as it comes. With 4 picks in the first 2 rounds, there's going to be a quarterback available to you that you like at some point that provides good value.
Yeah.
There's going to be somebody there. If you don't use your top pick on a quarterback, there's probably going to be somebody you like later in the first. There's probably going to be somebody you like in the early second or the late second. Now, I don't think it's a good idea. Maybe if one guy just dominates this college football season and really, really puts themselves forward as the very obvious guy, then maybe. But this is not a draft class where you have to just fall in love with one guy.
Mm-hmm. It would have to, what would, historically speaking, of first round guys that have gone number 1 overall in prior drafts throughout any time in NFL history, what would be a like guy for you to move that needle in that way? We're talking about you now packaging picks and moving on up in the draft and really now targeting in on that guy.
I mean, if you're going to be a Peyton Manning, then of course it's worth it. It's worth moving heaven and earth to get you. But would it be worth it for a Kyler Murray type? I don't really think so. Would it be worth it for who else?
I got
Who's
one
another
for
good
you.
example?
I got one for you. We got this guy transferring to Washington State that's got everybody. All these Cougs are hyped up out here in Spokane. Yeah, I'm watching. They're all hyped up for this kid coming. So he has a Drew Bledsoe season.
I'm not there yet. I'm not. No, I can't do it.
That's the dog in you, man. I hear the dog in you on that one. You just can't sign off on a Cougar. That's what that is, Brendon.
I'll sign off on him, but I'm not going to move heaven and earth to get him unless he's got to go a little beyond the Drew Bledsoe thing. Drew Bledsoe was a nice player, but
and you saw why I picked him, of course, because he was a number 1 overall pick. So it's it's one of those guys. It's where I'm with you, man. It's like I want the Peyton Manning, I want the John Elway, I'd like the Andrew Luck type if I'm really going to make that jump. Versus, like you said, on the Kyler Murray or Baker Mayfield or Tim Couch or Drew Bledsoe and Bledsoe was better than all those guys. But
yeah, I mean, there's a world of difference between Kyler Murray and Tim Couch, obviously, but
obviously, yeah. But it's still a matter of giving up those package of picks is going to take quite a bit to get me to jump across that water. He better be something truly special at that point from what he shows. And it's possible, Brendon, like I keep telling people, everybody gets set in their opinions here. It's like, give this college season the chance to play out, because this is going to determine so much more than anything else where these guys go and how high they're selected. And that's in all variances, from falling off the end of the earth to lighting it up and somebody we're not even talking about becoming a star.
Yeah.
I've got a donation here on the chat from Corey Olson. Sorry, I'm a little late to acknowledge you, Corey, but I do appreciate the $5 donation. He says, "Hey guys, who do you see being our starting cornerbacks? I really hope it's Bryant and Brown or Woolen, a combo of those guys. What do you think?" I'll let you leave with this, Brendon.
Well, I don't think you bring back Sidney Jones unless you're planning to have him start. So I think Sidney Jones will be one of the starters, which I like because Sidney Jones he proved himself pretty well last year, I think. The other guy, I think it's going to be Kobe at the start, partially because Trey Brown is not going to be 100% in September, or at least I seriously doubt it. Once he's healthy, those guys are probably going to maybe play matchups where maybe Kobe plays against the taller receivers and Trey Brown plays against the faster receivers because that matches their skill set a little better. I don't see Woolen playing very much as a rookie. I think that's probably a bad idea. He's got a lot to learn. I tried to watch some tape on him last year at UTEP, I think it was. And it was mostly not good. I think he got benched against Western Kentucky, actually. So,
yeah. He's still figuring out his footwork. He's got like a false step to the inside that he likes to take, and then that throws everything off the rest of the way. Like he just becomes kind of a mess. Everything kind of starts to fall together and just turns into he can't turn direction or anything at that point. And I think that's where it helps come in here, because the kick step is supposed to simplify that footwork for you early on in the play, to take away a little bit of that thinking where you're supposed to be remaining patient in your first step that you're taking in that defense, in the way that they go about it normally, if they continue to stick to it, which may help him out a little bit. But that's also, this is where you give him a little bit of room too, right, Brendon? Because he is a guy that just turned over from a wide receiver not 2 years ago. So he's just learning the cornerback position. You usually expect a guy like that to have that kind of sloppy footwork, and also to have room to grow to where you don't think he's a finished product, because he's not had the time these other guys have had of 10, 12, 10 years through junior high and high school and college of just playing that one position.
Right. Oh, by the way, it was UT San Antonio, not UTEP. That's my bad. But
same thing.
It in some ways it does feel like it was just destiny that he would end up in Seattle with Pete Carroll, right? Like everything, it just seems like I don't know if he's going to succeed, but if there's anywhere he's going to succeed, it's with Pete Carroll, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's like going to it's like it's got like Mahomes going to Andy Reid almost a little bit. It's like it's like you're getting this guy with all of these raw tools coming to this guy who's throughout the course of his career, and I would even argue back to even a guy like who had a good career in Donovan McNabb, but there were things Andy Reid had to overcome in that guy with some of his, and he didn't have a lot of limitations to his game, but there were some things with McNabb that weren't always sensational and fun to deal with, I think, from Reid's standpoint of things. And then you have the Alex Smith years and the Kevin Cobb years, and the years that he played with lesser, and then he could give him a freak and then watch what happens. Give him some guy that's just unbelievable, and it's like you're it's almost like a cheat code you're giving the coach. He's had the e-brake pulled for years or something. So I am hopeful. Corey, I echo Brendon where I do think Brian's got kind of the inside track. I don't know if it was Carl Scott or Sean Desai that was speaking about it in the OTAs about how he really picks up what they try to teach in the film room to what then he does on the football field. So he's really able to I think, ramp up his process of learning and getting on that field when he can be able to do that. I think some guys, it takes a little longer for the parts to all click together, what you're being told in the classroom versus on the field. And remember, this is now going to be a secondary with more of a moving parts and probably more man stuff and maybe a little bit more complexity to how they play their coverages than they have in the past. And I think the other thing, Brendon, is we just don't know yet necessarily, is Trey Brown fully up and running by game one? Is he fully up and running by the start of training camp? If he's not up and running by the training, does that set him back a little bit in his competition with Brian versus Brian just being healthy from the jump, being closer to the prototypical standards they look for in the position?
Yeah, I do expect Kobe to start at the start of the year for all those reasons that he gave. But I don't mind that either, too, by the way. I do think Brian, with his massive amount of college experience, is ready to go.
Agreed. You got a guy two times in 2 years in a row, all ACC, Walter Thorpe Award winner last year. Guy's ready to go. He's going to be a good player for us. Thank you for the donation on that. We got another dono here from Chase Stern. Thank you, Chase, for the $10 donation. Very kind of you. He says, any non-Levis you like? I'm asking both of you.
I got quite a few guys who at least are interesting. I have kind of come around on CJ Stroud. I think he's a little better than I initially gave him credit for. I am at least very interested in Van Dyke. I want to see what he does this year. I'm not sure if I like him yet. Phil Jerkovic, Anthony Richardson is very intriguing. That might be the most fun guy because there's still so much we don't know about him. But I would say him, Cam Ward, KJ Jefferson, Tanner McKee. These are all guys that I'm very intrigued by. So
give me your top four right now. It will be subject to change completely. But if it's draft day today right now and you're putting up your top four board here for Chase, what's your four board pecking order look like?
Well, I think you do kind of have to put Bryce Young up there, even though I'm not really into him, because it's not like I hate Bryce Young. I don't hate him.
Mm-hmm.
So my number one is Levis. I will admit that. And then after that, I'm going to go Stroud, Young, and then I'm going to say I like Jerkovic a little more than Van Dyke. But I do think that by the time the season ends, you're going to see some guys like KJ Jefferson leapfrog one of those guys.
I like it. It's good. It's a good list there. I'm going to go with, I match you up with Levis. I go Stroud number 2. My third right now is KJ Jefferson. Fourth for me is Young. And fifth right now is tentatively Van Dyke, but absolutely that one is the least confident one I have of that bunch, because I still have some questions with him as
Telling you
well.
guys, it's the name. It's the name, man. If he was
Hey,
named like Tyler Starr or Tyler Strong, you would have no problem with it.
Jerkovic is kind of getting into that department of it, though. Jerkovic's not the strongest plant your flag in the ground type name either. This ground is claimed by the Jerkovics.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, man, on that one.
Mm-hmm.
Well, all right. So in the draft, you let the draft basically fall to you. You take advantage of the quarterbacks and the plethora of them in this upcoming draft, and that you basically are leaning towards probably getting just who the best players available, going for the best player. And I think some of that could be driven that you end up seeing a better early quarterbacks are taken. That pushes you down to, let's say, 6, where you have a really great player sitting at number 6 who had no business, having landed there. And if that was the case, that pushes you then to make that first pick a de facto grade A, let's say, whatever it is, cover corner, pass rushing defensive end, stud 0 to whatever it could be that comes up from the season. And then getting that quarterback then just maybe a little bit later. And then I guess you would just probably pick from there out then, Brendon, right? You're not looking to package those 2 second rounders and get up in the first round at that point. Or are you just looking to just keep doing what you kind of did in this last draft? Let it fall to you, let it unfold, take as it kind of comes.
I mean, I think we all know that trading up is not the John Schneider way, at least not early in the draft. So that's just unlikely as a general principle, right? Like, we can hope, you can say, like, I think this would be smart, but wishes don't do dishes.
Well, that's right. Oh, and you also got to have him do it at least one time before we can call him having the potential to be able to do it, right? Like, he's never in his history or ever done it. So hard to see and make a prediction of that. And I'm okay with that. Especially, I was thinking about today, Brendon. I mean, if you happen to do have Denver have a bad year and it's down year, and you end up with not only those 2 top 10 first round picks, having those top 2 second round picks, I mean, that's almost like a de facto 4 first round picks you're walking away from.
Yeah.
In that one draft alone, and all you could build off the back of that with what you already have versus trying to package it up and just pick some specific guy. I like this route much better. Just let it come to you. Well, I want to ask one more question in regards to this as we look to this future plan of our Hawks. And I actually might have 2 questions, but this was one thing I just want to ask you is there any major move, not even, let's say, even if you're being patient and waiting a year out from it, we're talking about this being 2024, let's just say in the next couple of years, as they push to reach to that elite status of team. And you might've answered this already with making a big swing with the Quentin Nelson pick, with the Quentin Nelson signing, for instance, but is there a big move swing that you would like to see the Seahawks make? From a standpoint of just adding something like this to the team, whatever they're doing else in the background of adding a quarterback here, they're getting this specific thing done. Maybe it could be at, having 3 top end wide receivers at one point, or making sure the offensive line is awesome front to back. But is there any kind of major sweeping thing you can think of in your mind that would be something you'd like to see them move towards in this next couple of years? It's just a big swing, something not that really is kind of go for the fence type move, Percy Harvin type swing.
I don't think we need to really concern ourselves with that too much right now.
Mm-hmm.
What I would like to say is make sure you're spending your big money in the positions that are considered to be of biggest impact. So just as an example, looking forward with this team right now, if we do draft, let's say, a linebacker next year's draft, an inside linebacker, which is what I want us to do. My number 1 right now is Trenton Simpson from Clemson. He's a guy who I think will end up being like a late first round pick. He's one of my top targets. There's also Sewell from Oregon. He's also probably going to be a late first round guy. Think about that linebacker core going forward. You've got Brooks, rookie deal. Let's say Trenton Simpson, rookie deal. Mafe, rookie deal. Taylor, rookie deal. And that's a linebacker core I'm excited about. That's not just us going super cheap on linebacker.
Mm-hmm.
So think about how that frees you up to spend money elsewhere. And think about like our cornerback room going forward. Trey Brown, he's got a couple more years left of a rookie deal. Well, 3 more, I think, actually. Tariq Woolen, rookie deal. Kobe Bryant, rookie deal. We're spending so little money on these positions going forward. I just want to maintain that. So that frees us up to be big spenders when it comes time to strike, like it might be in 2024. When you go, okay, we are almost there, but we need this one more thing.
Yeah.
And you can do that because you are so cost effective at these other positions.
It is. And I think they've set the stage to be able to do this, Brendon. This is part of having the good trek this offseason, especially as it concerns the draft. And even last offseason's draft, where they only had 3 picks, but still there was good additions in what you did to that to set the stage for this, where there are the cheaper positions to go to, then eventually make that precise big swing, be it whatever it may be, or a couple of, doubles swings, to use a baseball analogy, instead of just a full home run on the money you use with it. But they've definitely set the stage here well, Brendon. I think we're both fairly optimistic that they're on at least the right path. Don't know if they'll get there, as far as they've got a lot of work still left to do here. You still got you got to still get your quarterback right. Some could say that's almost some of the most important part of this above all else. But they're at least starting to get down the right trail here. I think, again, I don't want to speak from you, but as we look forward here to, I think even though you say it takes an extra year, you have a lot of confidence this team can get to an elite state by that point, not merely a good state, but that they can be an elite team by that point.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that one more good draft could really do it. One more good draft, and you have a lot of picks to work with in the next draft. I think this team is very close. We had one good draft already. I think we haven't seen them on the field yet, but I really like the draft we had. Mm-hmm. One more really good draft, and you're there, I think. So you got to have that draft. It's easier said than done for sure. But I think this team is actually on a pretty good path right now. That doesn't mean the work is done, though. I kind of get annoyed when I see some Seahawks fans say, like, oh, yeah, we won that Wilson trade. No, there's still work to be done if we want to win that trade. But we're on a good path.
It's well said. It's to be determined. And really the big part of what you do in that Russell Wilson trade may end up being what you, certainly the cross is going to be a big part of it, but what you accomplish is those 4 upcoming picks in totality or not the 4, but the 2 other picks you're getting off the Broncos. So yeah, we're still in an unsure state, but we're seeing at least good signs here that are coming forward as far as what their decision-making has been. To your point on this, you can be smart and have things get upended at the end of the day because of bad luck or injuries or whatever could come down the track. But you can at least be smart in your approach. And the Seahawks have started to be fairly smart in their approach right now. The one part that we didn't talk about, which I don't know if we fully know how it's going to impact yet, is how the potential impending sale is going to come down the next couple of years and what that could cause to the situation, with how much, do you have money to spend for guaranteed money on deals, how that can impact you with signings, that type of thing. But that's probably for another time and another show.
Yeah, that does exist, but the good news is that doesn't necessarily interfere with my plan of not being big spenders next offseason. I already kind of said I'm cool with us playing it slow next year, rolling money over, doing 1-year deals, just kind of letting the foundation that you've built show that they're good enough. So now it would be unfortunate if you have this great foundation, but your team doesn't feel comfortable spending in 2024 because they're about to sell. That would hurt, but we'll worry about that in a couple years.
Yeah, and it's uncertain where they're at money-wise at that point. I think right now they're definitely being kind of a little bit frugal in that they're going to use up all their cap space, but at the same point in time, they're doing it in these 1- and 2-year deals, which just don't let them pack in the contracts, which, Brendon, I think once we do get to a place of being, if we're going to be elite, I think elite teams have to find a way to compact in those contracts, and they can't just stick everything into a 1, 2, 3-year deal on the short term and go that route with it. I don't know if that's a sustainable model to put yourself into an elite stage.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm pretty encouraged right now about things. My main concern is because Jody will still be the owner in free agency in 2024 because she can't sell until June, I think, and free agency is in April. So that would be unfortunate. March. So that would be like the thing that I kind of talk about sometimes where we as fans just kind of get stuck in the middle and we're just stuck rooting for a sports team that does not have winning as their number one interest that would be unfortunate, but we'll worry about that when we get to it. For now, I think taking it slow is totally the right thing to do. And 1-year deals, they have a lot of issues with them, but they allow you to kind of almost in a way run out the clock. They allow you to just say, okay, this year's not the year. Let's do some 1-year deals because we have to spend some money. And also the other thing is about cap space. It's not like we're going to sign every free agent if we have all the cap space for it, right? There is a law of diminishing returns there.
Yeah.
Where some people were like, oh, we should do this and this and this. So we have 200 million in cap space next year. It's like, how are you going to spend 200 million in one off season?
Yeah, I think that's how you end up with the Jaguars giving Christian Kirk a $17.5 million average per year deal because you're, and the year before they were giving out money to, Marvin Jones, and you start having to then spend money on guys you don't know if they're really fits, but you got to spend the money, so it's got to be spent somewhere. So, and I'm not in favor of that, Brendon. Where I get worried about with this short term deal is that part of what everyone has. Everyone's telling us the Rams are breaking cap rules, and what they're doing is they're putting guaranteed monies into these deals where the bonus money's not on the front, it's guaranteed. So guarantee could kick in year 3 of Cup's deal or year 3 of Aaron Donald's deal, which means he's still getting his money, but then the cap hit is getting proverbially spread out in a way which lets them cram more contracts under their cap, which allows them to then stack their team that much higher. And I just feel like when you have teams that are doing that and you're on this other end of the scale where you have multiple off seasons, you have more than $50 million to spend. And the biggest deal that you handed out over those 2 off seasons and $100 million spent is what, a 3-year, $39 million deal that you gave Quandre Diggs? That to me is a little bit worrying in the respect of we have maybe a cash flow problem here. And that's I feel like it's already hard, like your point on this. If winning's not your number one goal, it's already hard enough to win when that is your number one goal. And now we're going to expect to be competitive if it's not within that. And that's my one worry with this team as we go forward is not their decision-making, not their scheme, not all that. I understand, there's still people worried with Carroll. I think he's starting to correct some of the issues. We'll see if that's to be determined. But my main issue at this point is it now starts to emerge like a sunrise in the horizon. Is this monetary situation, Brendon? I mean, am I off my rocker on this one? Am I just a bit far out?
No, not at all. I don't think you're off base with being concerned about that at all. I think it's very clear that Pete and John believe they can still win without doing those things. Now, as for the cash flow issue, we don't know who's going to own us in 2 years. We know It's not going to be Jody. It kind of can't be because of the Paul Allen Trust, which specified it had to be sold. So that I'm not too worried about. But if Pete and John are really going to be here for a long time, which at Pete's age, you would think he probably couldn't be here that long. But I don't know. It does seem like they think they can outsmart everybody and win without overextending their salary cap, but that's pretty unlikely.
Yeah. I mean, I'd be open to having faith in them doing that if I'm not looking around at these teams throughout the league that are teams getting to the Super Bowl in just recent years, like your Chiefs, your Buccaneers, your Rams, who have been going in this direction and doing the Chiefs trade for Frank Clark and sign him to a $20 million a year deal. And his first year cap hit is 6.5, that's what these other teams are doing. And if you're not doing it, look, the Bengals got to the Super Bowl. So yeah, you can. It's not that it's not unattainable. I just think that they are making that a little more uphill at that point. And maybe that's just the reality until we get the new owner. It is what it is maybe. But it is the one part that has me a little concerned because like I said, 2 off seasons and 3, now you've had over $50 million to spend. What did you do with all that money? What did we do with it? What have we gotten with all that?
Yeah, I got the sense that they really just thought that what they had was good enough, and they were wrong about that. That's kind of why I feel like we had so many bad drafts in a row. we were trying to find that one player that was going to put us over the top, and we kept getting that one player wrong. It was, oh, it's Rashad Penny. Oh, it's LJ Collier. But
You're right.
this draft, why it went so well is because we were freed up to just say, you know what? Don't worry about that. Just take the best player.
Yeah, it's why this draft looks so differently than recent drafts, is that you could see them telegraphing, reaching for a need. You know, we lose this pass rusher, let's go get LJ Collier. Oh, we lost Clowney, let's go get Taylor. You know, you saw this, what they were trying to do and get from these guys versus even this year, as I like to relate it to Mafe. You brought Mafe in, but you had already signed Owusu in the offseason. So he's not having to come in like you expected of Taylor or Collier before him to come in and be impactful from the jump. He's going to be a rotational guy. He's going to be put into positions to succeed initially, which is a much better, you know, route to go than where they've gone with it. So I think that's also sustainable, Brendon, right? This kind of decision making is, if you stay in this pocket, you can, you know, duplicate it again into the future.
Right. I don't know. Everything's going to feel so different when we have this new owner, whoever it is. Like, I know that's a couple years down the line. I know we got to get through this season and the next season first, but that's going to be such a big influencer on what this team is able to do. Like, if they get the right owner, they could completely reshape this even as like a free agent destination, because right now we're not the trendiest free agent destination in the world at all, but right owner maybe could change that.
Well, and maybe the upshot is if they are stuck in the 1 and 2 year deals or the 3 year deals at the most, with the occasional Metcalf contract that they can give out here in the next couple of years, maybe at least the upshot of that, Brendon, is that the new owner comes in, is not married to a coach, not married to a general manager. He's got a ton of cap space to work with. And if he is truly committed to winning and he's got that same kind of Paul Allen moxie to him, he can come in and maybe have that kind of impact to turn this into the right direction. If it's not at that point, having those kind of, you know, that war chest to work with.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, if Phil Knight turned Oregon into a hot spot for college football recruiting, so money can get things done, man.
Money talk. Money eventually, at the end of the day, talks. I always say the thing. It's like you can have all the fancy facilities and everything else. That's the end of the day, and that's why, look, the Rams are getting their deals done. Is that guaranteed money they're putting in? They're going to pay the price on this. But one more reason why, to your point, just to finish this off, one reason to your point of waiting a couple of years too, we didn't talk about, we don't have to dive deep into it, that you also are in a much better position as opposed to your rest of your division. Stafford at that point is getting close to 40 years old and probably on his way out. The Niners are in a kind of best case scenario for them, having to now have to pay Trey Lance out of his rookie deal on top of all the other big contracts they have, which are at least 4 or 5 at that point. And the Cardinals are definitely not a team that, to me, draws a lot of fear into me going into the future, especially once they're going to have to pay Kyler Murray $45-50 million a year. Is that fair?
Maybe they're going to go let him go and go get the kid from the Cam Newton commercial.
Hey, you never know. Cardinals we know they like to draft quarterbacks. If they go back to back to back, they could, right? Rosen, Murray, and they just keep on going. Yeah. Got the guy from USC a couple of years ago. What's the Matt Leinart? They've grabbed they've had their share, man. They've dipped that well very often. We get knocked for some of our first round misses at quarterbacks. The Cardinals have stacked up their share over time as well. So it's been no easy track. Well, Brendon, thank you for coming on today. I really appreciate you coming in through. I know we're in the doldrums, the off season, and you're working through some technical issues and whatnot. But thanks.
I apologize. I apologize for the camera issues today, guys.
Oh no,
my internet. I don't know what's going on. I need to have an exorcism done on this setup I have, I guess.
You just need some sage. Get lots of sage, man. Get lots of sage. Look up voodoo witch doctor somewhere on the internet. There's got to be a local guy in Washington. That's the way it is now. It'd be cool. Little sage and a voodoo doctor goes a long way. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But it was cool to go into the not too distant future of this team a little bit, I think.
Hey, this is where we get our geeky out as much as anybody, Brendon. And I know you're both in the same line as we like looking at the far future of this, not just for some understanding and talking about the channel, because this is what we really like to, and it's football theory, and it's how a team's moving from an organizational standpoint. And you can see these things kind of materialize in the direction the team goes. And that's why I like to talk about it, because they are showing, even now, a year out, some slight hands here to how they're going to play this out. And I think that could be, it just makes it interesting. It's interesting, and it'll be fun to see if it does kind of play to kind of the form we think it will here, which I think it will. I mean, especially your point about letting the free agents walk and maybe being a little more conservative on your own free agents, unless, they're being more willing to play within the ballpark of reason as far as their contractual demands. and Stangler more conservative. I can totally see that from this pathway of things. So well said on your part with this, and thank you for coming on in today, man. I always love doing this with you.
Yeah, always love doing it with you as well. Hopefully next time you'll be able to see me. But yeah, always love doing it. And pretty soon here we're gonna actually have some action. July and then August. Preseason starts in August, I think, and then you're on the track.
Are you going to training camp?
As of right now, I'm not planning to, but I may end up doing it. I've done it before.
Okay. I might do it too. So I don't know. Maybe if you do it, I'll go do it too or something. So
Yeah.
I'll think about it. If they make it feasible, then go do it. But I'd like to go check it out at some point as well. I think that'd be fun.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome. Well, if you're not already subscribed, please go over to Seahawks Brendon Nelson. He of course has a great YouTube channel going over there, just cooking. You passed 9,000, right?
We are very close to it. We should get to it in the next handful of days. Obviously, I'm not uploading that much right now because there's just not a whole lot to talk about. But yeah, I should get there sometime early in July. So we're very close.
We'll go over there and help Seahawks Brendon Nelson get himself up over that hump. He's very close over that 9,000 mark. Please do hit the like button here on this video and subscribe to me as well if you're not already. But appreciate all of you guys for watching. We actually had well over 100 people in the chat, which was cool to see, Brendon. A lot of people turned out here in the offseason. And like Brendon said, we've turned the corner, folks. We're just about up over the hill. Training camp is soon to arrive. So keep tuning in to both the channels here. We'll keep you guys updated. But beyond all that, please don't ever forget, never forget, my fellow Seahawks compadres, go Hawks.
Go Hawks.
That's right.